What's up, people? I just released a podcast on my main channel with Narendra Nayak, who is one of the biggest rationalists in India. And you can go check it out if you haven't yet. But after filming that podcast, a bunch of us got the chance to sit down with him and have a conversation. And that's what you're about to see. Now, the conversation was in his office, which looks a bit strange. And I asked about that in the very first question, but basically, he's an industrial supplier. He has a business where he provides supplies of industrial chemicals and stuff to hospitals. And that's anyway, I asked that in the very first question. So enjoy the conversation. For me, also, I just think about sustaining whatever I'm doing. Because if I go into a big loss,
that is a sole source of income. For me, I've got a business going on. I've got what I earned. This is my business.
Actually, I want to ask. I was wondering.
No, we have got an office in the front.
Okay.
They have taken holiday today.
So what is?
This is DIN's water.
DIN's water, but they sell it to
Hospitals, colleges, labs.
And even vehicle, you can put it in car.
cars.
No, for
Big
batteries.
business magnet, Mr. Narendra.
What business? They're very small. And it's mainly owned by those people.
I
I've
don't
got
think it
three
makes money
people.
from it. He gives the money away to those people. Basically.
Quite often, caste privilege is associated with rationalism or activism or whatever. So, what's your?
No, I can talk about my individual example and the allegation of people that what I say is tolerated because of the other aspects of my personality. That is, in which, for example, in the involvement in the consumers movement, in which everybody has taken help of at some stage or the other. Even if you are very wealthy, when it comes to some consumer issue, there is a supplier who's bigger than you and he doesn't care for you. You may be a big man here, but you may buy a TV from a bigger company, and when you get into trouble with that, you want our help. So that person probably would want to on the wrong side with me. Maybe that. Maybe because when it comes to a problem against a bigger authority, there is hardly anybody who will stand by their side. I don't care. I go by the issue. And I'll stand by their side and help them regardless of what. So that's why I think people do not want to antagonize. On the other hand, even those who want to oppose, they're afraid of my social standing and my family. And maybe I'm not very wealthy, if you look at that, except that my family is wealthy. Maybe they think that I'm rich enough to handle anything that they can throw at me. But I always identify myself with the Dalits. In fact, Dali Sangha invited me to be the first to garland the statue of Ambedkar. That day. Because Dali Sangha Samiti, the last Ambedkar Jayanti, they asked me to be the first to garland. Because I'm founder member of the Dali Sangha Samiti.
No, I was telling that they are the RSS.
The Nayak Balika family.
He has been killed. So he was actually the RSS, person.
Functional.
Yeah, functional.
One of the functional.
He has been killed. And the other one, he's the one who's.
Not he, we as a group we have taken.
No, yes, but still, he's leading that. So it is not a group he is representing. He is a human being and accepting the individual difference. Right? As a humanist point, this is a humanist point. Right? It's not that you become an
coming to exploitation of women,
you become a human.
children.
Yes.
And my wife was the member of she was the chairman of the CWC for nearly 3.5, 4 years. So at that time, she will bring some issues like this. Poor child, why don't I help?
Arya Mandir had one.
Arya Samaj.
Exploitation of children.
Yeah, exploitation
There
of
was a guy
children.
there who was
Yeah, Devavrata.
Yeah. Very extraordinary.
That time Poxo was not there.
Really?
Yeah.
In the 90s.
90s there was no possible.
No.
Also came later.
Much later.
2004.
What family or what personal pressure or issues have you faced with your group?
Absolutely zero. Not a single one I have faced so far. Either from her side or from our side. No.
Even when you were young? Or
No, never. At no time did I face any issues. When I refused thread ceremony at the age of maybe 12 or something.
You refused the threats?
Yeah, I refused.
On what grounds? Was it?
I don't want.
You don't want.
Simple. I don't believe in that. At the age of 11, I was an atheist. I said, no, not for me.
Also, I think once you build up reputation from a younger age, maybe you kind of like you create an aura, not aura, aura is the wrong word. Like at least some sort of influence
yeah.
around
Yeah.
you. That
You had a
people
thread
know.
ceremony.
One,
You had a thread
That's what he
He said
said.
no.
no, I
he
did not
You
have.
didn't have.
I have not had a single religious ceremony performed on me till date.
But your family has been involved in other ceremonies. They were religious ceremonies.
No, my mother never.
Mother was
Our
not.
only so-called religious ceremony in our house was bursting crackers during Diwali.
Religiously bursting
and
crackers.
doing some puja to the cows.
Ah.
And Tulsi puja, my mother used to do something. And then
Father was religious.
no. He became later on. When I was young, he was too busy. We never used to see him because he'll go early in the morning.
It's more like a revolt against your belief. Was it when it became like
No, I never had any beliefs to revolt
not
against at
belief,
that
but
time.
your ideas he was against it.
No. That later on he started talking nonsense. And we put him in his place.
This is your father you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
When he became older, otherwise he was never bothered about all these things. Later on he started talking like a GSB and we put him in his place.
No, but what about, say, where you worked?
No, never an issue. See, they said give your caste and religion.
On the form?
No, not on the form. After I joined,
Ah.
they said caste and religion. I said no caste, no religion.
Ah.
And there was one more lady. Now there is a Anand Kini, who was an associate dean, who was a plastic surgeon. His mother, Sunanda Kini, she was a professor of pathology. And this man, Agarwal, Anupam Ruchir and other one. Their father, K.L. Agarwal, was the professor. She was the other one in the college who said no caste, no religion. I think Kumar had probably not joined at that time.
So this is KMC.
The KMC. Then they sent it back, saying that give the religion and caste into which you are born. I said one is not born in any religion. And then they said give the caste and religion of your parents.
Yes.
Then you have to put it.
They have to put. He said they were born to this. And this lady to the end said, I believe in universal brotherhood of man.
Yes. Yes.
Of course, she was also a GSV. No, in fact, this college used to, in one time the college report, 27 pages was my activity. They were proud of it, sort of.
Yeah, one of the yearbooks you said what 27.
Yeah, 27 pages out of the 50 were my
They have an
activity.
annual yearbook where each professors, what they have done, they have to put it.
Okay.
So it's 27
And
pages.
submit it to UGC as the report. So, community service.
I'm sure you would have met many people who would say that we're not able to be open about our ideas, our beliefs, our rationalism, because our families would resist in some way. So I'm sure many people watching would also feel similarly. So what would you say to them?
Nothing. Do what you want. And don't try to change your older generation. It won't work.
Yes.
However much you try, it's not going to work. Trying to change the older generation. Let them be, let them do whatever they want. And if you are principled enough, say, don't do it to me. In fact, I remember one of our groups in Hyderabad where the father died. The mother did not want any religious ceremony, the daughter did not want any religious ceremony, but the other relatives were trying to force them. And our people went and stood there and they couldn't do anything. They said, when the wife doesn't want and the family doesn't want, who are you to force them to do things? I said, what will happen? His spirit will come back. I said, good, let it come back. I will ask it how life is after death. And after my father passed away, I had come to Delhi and I had a call from my cousin who said, today is 13th day after Chikappa passed away. I said, so what? He said, our pollution has to be removed. I said, 13 days are over. Pollution is over now. He said, no, before 13 days, whatever you do, you cannot remove the pollution. But after 13 days, unless you remove it, it sticks on. I said, good, hold on to it. He said, when your mother died also, you didn't do anything. I said, yeah, when I die also, nothing will be done, so don't worry. When my mother died, I didn't do anything. And then her spirit started troubling. This lady was telling on the other side is my ancestral home. Our ancestral home is there. My mother, after death, she didn't want to trouble the son, but she went there and started troubling him. And so they had Ashtamangala Prashna spending lakhs. And there, after all that Prashna, the answer was that 2 women of this family have died and no last ceremonies have been done to them. Their souls have not gone to heaven. And my mother did not go there alone. She went there with a friend and was told. They wanted to send the spirit to heaven, and that only I can do as son. I refused to do it. Then finally the solution was found. They said we can do a digbandhana by which she will not be able to enter these premises. But sending her to heaven only the son has to do. So she is wandering around. He cannot even enter the premises of my ancestral home.
In fact, that was only if you were Christian.
The limbo is only for Krishna. That's why she is wandering around. Bhatakti Atma. But they try to blackmail you into doing things like they did for my sister. Her brother-in-law passed away, I think his family and all came and blackmailed her into sort of doing something at Upinangadi or something similar. We had a memorial program for him a month after he passed away, my brother-in-law. He invited all his friends and relatives. We had a lunch. And that was it. It was a normal lunch.
I think the problem with art, like when people die in India, there's too much of crying, there's not much of celebration of the person's life. I think that needs to change. It needs to become more about celebrating a person's life than...
For my mother, we celebrated her life on the 14th day. My father said, you are against all these ceremonies. Are you against her lunch? I said, no. Arrange a lunch in your mother's memory. I said, will you pay the bill? He said, yeah, I will pay the bill. So we arranged a lunch. We asked for C.V. Nayak Hall. There is a C.V. Nayak Hall here. That hall was given. But that day it was booked by somebody else, 13th day. So I booked for the 14th day. Then my father said, we will become laughing. I said, you are already laughing. Stop, so don't worry. Nothing more. You wanted me to arrange for the lunch and I have done that.
Yes.
And whatever her favorite was, we ordered for it. Okay. And 300 people came, they had their lunch. That was the end of it. After a year, he again said, annual memory, you have to have a lunch. I said, okay, we'll have it. We had it again. I'm nothing against lunches.
Yes.
We kept
I think we are all on the same page. We are all on the same page.
And I celebrated, to put in inverted commas, my 60th birthday with a nice party, and We invited all our friends and family, and we had a dinner, and we had a big banner there. Lived for 60 years without the help of any supernatural power. And we had chicken, we had pork, we had every tamasic thing there. So that was the way we did it. And there are two photos there. On one side, my parents, my biological parents. Other side, Premanand's photo. My ideological father. So these were the pictures there on the dais.
I want to ask you about
That was to make a mockery of the 60th birthday. Shashti Purti, when they want to thank God for having kept him alive, kept the person alive. And achieving 60 years was it was a great achievement. When the average life expectancy was 19 years in 1917, and when it was 32 years in 1947, achievement of the age of 60 years was an accomplishment, and one had to thank God and Swamiji and Venkatramana for it. In the community into which I am born, that is this Gauda Saraswat Brahmins.
I want to ask you about Premanand and how he influenced you.
Yeah. Premanand, I first met him, I think, in 1982. I was introduced to him by a magician called Shankar. He has got some Maya amateur magicians troupe, and also it's doing well. It's at Udupi. He said, I know two brothers, Premanand and Dayanand, who can produce vibhuti from thin air. They can walk on fire, they can pull carts with hooks in their back, blah 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 blah. We'll have some program in Bangalore and we'll have in Udupi. Pavada Rahasya Bayalu, Miracle Exposure program by Raymond. And it was a ticketed program in and well attended in board school Udupi. There were thousands of people. Pavada Rahasya Bayalu. No. Kannada. Pavada Rahasya Bayalu. In Malayalam it is Adbhutam.
But those are Malayalam words also. Pavada and Rahasya.
Pavada, I think, is applied to some underskirt or something like that.
So I was asking, was it something like that?
I think behind the curtain.
Okay.
Yeah. No. Pavada is miracle.
Miracle, yeah. Pavada is
in
miracle.
Kannada. Pavada, yeah. So this Premanand started talking. He said the sound of reproduction is Om and blah, 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 blah. Within 5 minutes, there was a huge crowd on the dais. All tilakdaris, juttudharis, shaldaris, all started shouting at him. You have come here to see magic, not listen to your nonsense, old man. Shut up.
So
Big commotion.
this was the same in 82 as well. It's nothing new.
No, it was in 82 or 83. I don't remember that time.
No,
So then-
the difference was they voted for the communist and they voted for Congress at the same time, not the BJP one. That was the difference.
Then he was not allowed to speak. Then we went ahead with the fire walking and all that, and then with the magic of so-called magic of Junior Shankar. And then after 2 days, the program was in Bangalore Town Hall. And there I told Premanand, I'll do this speaking. You simply be there and do things. So I did the speaking and it went on very well. And that was the first time. Then started an attack on us. There is this local rag called as Udayavani, which was and is without editorial. I think, or now they are having some editorial. They started a letter campaign against us, in which they said, today the nationalists are saying no miracle, tomorrow they'll say no God. I said, why tomorrow? Today itself I'm saying there's no God. Then immediately the magician developed cold feet. They said, we have nothing to do with the rationalists, we are magicians. So then we decided, henceforward, if we are going to have programs, we'll organize them ourselves. We'll not have nothing to do with these fellows. And then we started organizing it ourselves. Premanand started making visits here. And then he was speaking in English. and I was translating it into Kannada. He said, why should I speak again in English and you in Kannada? You know anyway what I'm going to say. You say that in Kannada and then tell me in English what I should do. So I'll talk about Sai Baba's Vibhuti, blah, 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 and then tell Premanand give Vibhuti. So Premanand will give Vibhuti. Like that it went on. So after a few more shows like that, he said, you know to talk, why don't you learn to do also? You learn to do. And then the first BJVJ came, Bharatiya Jana Vijnana Jata. And that was starting from, I think, Chennai, going around Kanyakumari and coming to Mangalore and then going right up to Bhopal.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that abrupt ending, but those are the main bits of the conversation we had. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.